Hello, welcome back to my channel, Basic to Advanced Chemistry. In our previous videos, we discussed types of mixture. Mixtures can be divided into heterogeneous and homogeneous mixture. Today, we are going to learn how to separate the components of the first type of mixture, that is heterogeneous mixture. So, we are going to learn a lesson on separation of mixtures, part 1. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to list the techniques used to separate heterogeneous mixtures. Identify the principles underlying filtration, decantation, magnetic separation, and sieving in separating components of heterogeneous mixture. So let us start our lesson. Separation of mixtures. What do we mean by the separation of mixtures? Separation of mixtures means separating a mixture into its individual components without changing their chemical properties. So why we do separate mixtures? We separate the components of mixtures for different purposes. The first one is to obtain useful or pure substances, to remove harmful or unwanted components, for recycling or purification processes. So let us see how to separate the components of heterogeneous mixtures. So we have different types of techniques to separate the components of heterogeneous mixture. These include filtration, decantation, magnetic separation, and sieving. Let us see these techniques one by one. First one is filtration. How can we define filtration? What is filtration mean? Filtration is a technique used to separate solid from liquids. So the principle is based on particle size difference. What does it mean? Solid particles with larger size are trapped by filter paper while the liquid passes through it. For example, by using filtration techniques, we can separate sand from water. So let us see how filtration works. For this, we have mixture here, mixture of water and the sand in this beaker. The yellow represents water molecule and the brown represents sand. Here we have filter funnel, which is made of glass in this case. On this filter funnel, we have filter paper used to separate the components of the mixture. Again, we have iron stand here, which has clamp. The clamp is used to hold filter funnel. Then we have another beaker here used to collect the component of the mixture that passes through the filter paper. The component of the mixture, in this case the water which passes through the filter paper and collected in this beaker is known as filtrate. So let us see how filtration works. The mixture is transferred into the filter funnel like this one. Then the components of the mixture, in this case water, is passed through the filter paper and collected into this beaker. So the water which passes through filter paper and collected into this beaker is known as filtrate. The one with higher particle size is trapped on the filter paper like this one. So filtration techniques is used to separate sand from water based on the principle of particle size difference. So the component with smaller particle size passes through filter paper and collected into this beaker, and the component with higher particle size is left or trapped by filter paper. In this way, these two components are separated. The second technique is decantation. So how can we define decantation? So what does decantation mean? Decantation is techniques used to separate liquid from heavy solids or liquid sediments. The principle is based on density difference. So what does it mean? The heavier or denser particles or liquids settle at the bottom and the lighter liquid is carefully poured off. By using these techniques, we can separate mud from water. let us see how decantation works. So we have a mixture here. Components of the mixture are mud and water. Mud is more denser and water is less denser. This yellow represents water and this brown represents mud. The mud is settled at the bottom of the beaker. Therefore, water carefully poured off from mud and collected to this beaker. So let us see how this works. Then water with less density carefully poured off to this beaker from mud. In this case, by using these techniques, we can separate water from mud. So the principle is based on density difference. The one which has more density is settled at the bottom of the beaker, and the one with less density carefully poured off from the mixture to another beaker like this one. The water which is poured off from the mixture to this beaker is known as decanted. So the other is magnetic separation. What does it mean? What is magnetic separation? Magnetic separation is a technique used to separate magnetic materials from non-magnetic substance. The principle is based on magnetic properties of the components of the mixture. Magnetic materials are attracted to a magnet and separated from non-magnetic substance. Example, by using magnetic separation techniques, we can separate gold from iron. Iron is magnetic substance. Pure gold is non-magnetic substance. By using this opportunity, we can separate the mixture of gold and iron by using magnetic separation. So let us see how magnetic separation works. We have magnet here. Again, we have mixture of iron and gold here. The red ball represents iron and the yellow ring represents gold. So if magnet is closed to this mixture, the one which have magnetic properties are attracted on the surface of the magnet, and the one which has non-magnetic property is left on the container. In this way, by using the magnetic properties of the components of mixture, we can separate the magnetic substance from non-magnetic substance. The last one is sieving. What is sieving means? Sieving is techniques used to separate particles of different size. The principle of sieving also depend on the particle size difference of the components of the mixture. So a mesh which has many holes allows smaller particles to pass while retaining larger ones. By using these techniques, we can separate sand from floor. So let us see how sieving works. So we have here a mixture of sand and floor, and we have sieve here. Sieve has a mesh, a network of small holes. On the sieve, we have a mixture of sand and the floor. So the floor is represented by this white and the sand is represented by this brown. So let us see how it works. If we rotate the sieve, the components of a mixture with smaller particle size is passed through the sieve, and the components of the mixture with larger particle size is retained on the sieve. By using these techniques, we can separate the components of the mixture which have different particle size. So let us summarize our lesson. In this lesson, we discussed different techniques used to separate heterogeneous mixture. These include filtration, decantation, magnetic separation, and sieving. Filtration and sieving are based on particle size difference of the components of mixture, whereas decantation is based on density difference of the components of mixture, and magnetic separation is based on the magnetic properties of components of mixture. So before ending our lesson, let us try to answer this question. Which of the following techniques, A to D, are used to separate the mixtures listed in the right 1 to 6? So let us see one by one. What technique is used to separate tea leaves from tea? We have solid and liquid here. So the best techniques used to separate solid from liquid is filtration. What techniques is used to separate mud from water? We have mud and water here with different densities. So the techniques used to separate components of mixture based on the density difference is decantation. Another, what techniques is used to separate oil and water? So oil and water have different densities. The techniques which is used to separate components of mixture based on their density difference is decantation. We have mixture here, iron, sand, and sulfur. So these components have different magnetic properties. Therefore, from this component, iron has magnetic properties and the rest has non-magnetic properties. Such type of mixtures are separated by using magnetic separation. The other is how can we separate stone from powdered sand? Stone and the powdered sand has different particle size. So the best techniques used to separate this type of components of mixture is sieving. Another is what type of techniques is used to separate flour and the sand. Here also we have components of mixture with different particle size. Therefore, this type of mixture is separated by using sieving. So try for yourself and compare with these answers. So thank you for watching. I will come back with another video next time. Don't forget click to subscribe, share and like.